The combat simulator just classified the human recruit as a Class X extinction threat, and she's asking if there's a water fountain nearby. Vexia had trained warriors for 500 years. She'd seen species that could phase through matter, beings that manipulated gravity with thought, and creatures whose very presence bent space-time. In half a millennium of instructing the galaxy's deadliest combatants, she had never once seen the simulator's threat assessment system classify anything above Class 7. The device sitting before her, smoking slightly and displaying angry red warnings across every surface, was screaming Class X in 17 different languages while the facility's emergency klaxons wailed their apocalyptic song. The human stood in the center of the training circle, brown hair pulled back in what her species called a ponytail, wearing the standard gray coveralls that marked her as a new recruit. She was rotating her shoulders in slow circles, the kind of casual stretch Vexia had seen 1,000,000 times before from nervous trainees trying to work out the tension. Except the motion sensors were registering each rotation as generating enough kinetic force to level a city block. According to YouTube analytics, 99.6% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. "Excuse me," the human called out, her voice carrying easily over the alarms. "Is there a water fountain around here? I've been walking for like 20 minutes and I'm getting pretty thirsty." Vexia's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, an involuntary stress response her species exhibited when confronting information that directly contradicted reality. The combat circle's containment field, designed to absorb stellar-class impacts, was flickering uncertainly. The human, Emma Martinez, according to the roster that had somehow appeared in the Advanced Combat Training Program, seemed completely unaware that her presence was causing 300,000 credits worth of equipment to have what could only be described as a nervous breakdown. "Remain still," Vexia commanded, her voice carrying the authority of centuries. She activated her comm unit with one of her secondary hands, while her primary hands moved to the emergency lockdown controls. "Control, this is Instructor Vexia in Training Circle 7. I need immediate backup and a full evacuation of sections 12 through 20. "Instructor, we're already aware," came the strained voice of Kale Thas, the facility commander. "The anomaly readings are visible from the command center. We've initiated facility-wide protocols. The Combat Council is being summoned. Whatever you do, do not engage the human in any physical contact." Emma's head tilted in confusion, a gesture that somehow registered on the sensors as a seismic event. "Am I in trouble?" "I'm really sorry, I think I might have taken a wrong turn. I was looking for the maintenance closet in section 15, but all these corridors look the same, and then there were all these people in uniforms pointing me this way, and I just kind of went along because everyone seemed really busy and I didn't want to bother anyone." The words came out in a rush, apologetic and genuine. Vexia had heard every excuse, every plea, every attempt at manipulation from recruits over the centuries. This wasn't any of those. This was authentic confusion from someone who genuinely believed they'd made a wrong turn. The realization hit Vexia like a plasma bolt to her thorax. The human wasn't a recruit. The human was lost. "You're not enrolled in the combat training program?" Vexia asked carefully, each word measured. "Combat training?" "No, I clean toilets." "Well, technically I'm a sanitation specialist, but yeah, toilets mostly. It's actually a pretty good gig, benefits are solid, and the pay is decent for not needing a degree or anything." Emma smiled, the expression transforming her face from merely pleasant to genuinely warm. "I'm Emma, by the way. Sorry for the confusion." The simulator's warning klaxons reached a new pitch. Vexia watched in horrified fascination as Emma extended her hand in what her cultural database identified as a human greeting gesture. The movement, casual and friendly, created a pressure wave that made the reinforced walls groan. Vexia very carefully did not take the offered hand. "I am Instructor Vexia," she replied, fighting to keep her voice steady. I must inform you that you are currently standing in the Galactic Federation's premier combat training facility. This circle is reserved for advanced warfare instruction for the most elite warriors in known space. Emma's eyes widen. Oh shit, really? Man, I am so lost. This is embarrassing, she laughed, a bright sound that somehow made the simulator's readings spike into theoretical impossibility. I've only been working here for like 3 days. Still learning the layout. Is there any way you could point me towards Section 15? I've got bathrooms scheduled for deep cleaning in like an hour. Vexia made a decision. In 500 years, she'd learned to trust her instincts, and every instinct she possessed was screaming that the worst possible course of action would be to let this human continue wandering the facility unescorted. The second worst would be to treat her as a threat. That left only one option: proceed as if this were a normal training situation, and hope the human's apparent obliviousness to her own capabilities would prevent catastrophe. Very well, Vexia said, deactivating the emergency protocols with a quick gesture. The klaxons died, leaving an echoing silence. Since you are here, perhaps you would benefit from a brief demonstration of what we do in this facility. It may help you appreciate the importance of remaining on designated paths. Emma shrugged, the motion registering as a tectonic shift. Sure, I've got a few minutes. This sounds interesting. Vexia stepped into the circle, her movements precise and controlled. She had given this speech thousands of times to thousands of recruits from hundreds of species. The words came automatically. Many arrive here believing they are special. They have been the best of their world, their system, perhaps even their sector. They come with pride, with confidence, with the certainty that they are destined for greatness. She activated the combat display, showing a holographic representation of proper stance. I am here to tell you a fundamental truth. You are not special. You are not unique. You are raw material. And only through discipline, training, and the complete abandonment of your preconceptions can you become something worthy of the title warrior. Emma nodded along, seeming genuinely interested. That makes sense. My manager said something similar when I started, like, don't think you know everything just because you cleaned floors somewhere else. Every place has its own way of doing things. The comparison between galactic combat training and janitorial work was so absurd that Vexia actually paused. She recovered quickly, moving into the first demonstration stance. Observe. This is the foundational position from which all combat flows. It has been refined over 10,000 years by the greatest fighters in galactic history. The placement of each limb is calculated to maximize response time while minimizing vulnerability. To master this stance takes most recruits 6 standard months of daily practice. She held the position, a living sculpture of martial perfection. Emma watched with clear attention, her head tilted slightly. Then, with the casual ease of someone mimicking a dance move at a party, she shifted into an identical stance. The simulator exploded, not metaphorically. The primary processing unit, overwhelmed by attempting to analyze Emma's casual mimicry, suffered a catastrophic cascade failure that sent sparks and smoke billowing across the training circle. Secondary systems kicked in automatically, running diagnostic checks and feeding data to the backup processors. Those immediately redlined and shut down to prevent permanent damage. Tertiary systems lasted approximately 4 seconds before they too surrendered to the impossible task of modeling what they were observing. Oh God, I broke something! Emma immediately dropped the stance, rushing toward the smoking simulator with clear distress on her face. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to try it. Is it expensive? I can totally help pay for repairs. Well, maybe on a payment plan because I have no idea how much alien computer things cost, but I'll figure something out. She reached the simulator and did what every human apparently did when confronted with malfunctioning technology. She tapped it gently with her knuckles. The resulting quantum cascade shut down 3 entire training wings and caused the facility's structural integrity fields to briefly contemplate retirement. Kael'thas materialized in the doorway, his emergency teleportation leaving the characteristic ozone smell of crisis response. The facility, commander was a Thoraxian, built like a tank had mated with a meteor, and his combat record included single-handedly ending 2 wars and preventing a 3rd. He took one look at the smoking ruins of what had been the most advanced combat simulator in the sector, and then at Emma, who was still apologizing profusely while trying to brush sparks off the machine. Instructor Vexia, Kael'thas said with the forced calm of someone standing on the edge of an abyss, what exactly is happening here? The human is lost, Commander. She's a sanitation specialist who took a wrong turn. She is not, I repeat, not an enrolled combatant. She has no training whatsoever. Kael'thas processed this information with visible difficulty. His combat implants, which could calculate trajectory solutions for orbital bombardment in microseconds, seemed to be struggling with the basic concept. The Class X threat is a custodian? I prefer sanitation specialist, Emma interjected helpfully, giving up on the simulator and turning to face them with an apologetic smile. It sounds more professional. And again, I'm really sorry about the machine. Maybe I have some static built up or something. I did walk through that weird, tingly hallway on the way here. The weird, tingly hallway was the quantum decontamination field that stripped away everything from biological weapons to hostile nanites. It was rated to handle anything up to and including sentient plasma beings. The fact that Emma had walked through it and described the experience as tingly was just another impossibility to add to the growing pile. Vexia made a decision that 500 years of experience told her was either brilliant or suicidal. Commander, with your permission, I would like to conduct a simple physical assessment. No weapons, no advanced techniques, simply a basic demonstration to establish baseline capabilities. Kael'thas's expression suggested he thought this was definitely the suicidal option, but he nodded slowly. Proceed, but at the first sign of danger, we're evacuating the entire complex. Baseline capabilities? Emma asked, looking between them. Like, you want to see if I can do jumping jacks or something? Something like that, Vexia replied. She took a deep breath, centering herself with the meditation techniques that had carried her through 5 centuries of combat. I'm going to demonstrate a basic training exercise. It's designed to test reflexes and defensive capability. I will throw a very slow, very controlled strike at you. Your instinct will be to block it. I want you to do so. Emma looked uncertain. Are you sure? I don't want to hurt you or anything. The statement was so absurd, coming from a being that massed perhaps 60 kilograms to Vexia's 250, that the instructor actually laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. I assure you, I have trained warriors whose casual thought could sterilize planets. You will not hurt me. Okay, if you're sure, Emma said, but she still looked worried. Vexia moved into position. She'd done this exact exercise approximately 70,000 times over her career. A simple straight punch, thrown at perhaps 10% of her actual speed, designed to test a recruit's basic defensive instincts without any real danger. She'd never injured anyone with it. It was the martial equivalent of a handshake. She threw the punch. Emma's hand came up instinctively, a basic blocking motion that any child might make. Her palm met Vexia's fist with a soft smacking sound. Vexia felt 12 bones in her arm break simultaneously. The impact traveled up through her shoulder, which dislocated with a wet pop and sent her stumbling backward 3 steps before her legs gave out entirely. She hit the ground hard, her vision white with pain, distantly aware of Emma's horrified cry and Kael'thas shouting into his comm unit. Oh my God, I'm so sorry! Emma was kneeling beside her, hands hovering uselessly. You said to block it. I barely touched you. Are you okay? That's a stupid question. You're obviously not okay. Someone call a doctor. Do aliens have doctors? Of course they have doctors. That's speciesist of me to even think. Commander, she needs help. Zara, the facility's chief medical officer, arrived within 30 seconds with a full trauma team. They sedated Vexia, not for the pain but for the shock, and began the process of setting bones that had fractured in patterns the medical sensors had never seen before. While they worked, Zara ran a scanner over Emma, who submitted to the examination with worried cooperation. Her defensive motion registered as a stellar-class impact, Zara reported to Kelthas in a quiet voice that nevertheless carried to everyone present. The instructor's arm might as well have struck a neutron star. There was no give, no absorption of force. The human simply existed in that space, and physics had to root around her. I have really good bone density, Emma offered weakly. I drink a lot of milk. Jitaro, the facility's physics consultant, arrived next. He was a cerebellian, more brain than body, floating in a containment sphere that hummed with computational power. He spent 5 minutes running calculations while everyone waited in tense silence. Finally, he spoke, his voice synthesized and utterly devoid of emotion, which somehow made his words more terrifying. The human is unconsciously suppressing approximately 99.99999% of her physical capabilities. Even breathing requires her species to engage in constant, automatic force limitation to avoid damaging their environment. When she performed the blocking motion, she briefly allowed her arm to exist in what she would consider a solid state. For reference, the force required to block the instructor's strike at human normal would have been negligible. Instead, she created a localized space where her matter density effectively became infinite relative to the strike. It's not that she's strong. It's that she can, at will and without conscious thought, make herself immovable. That doesn't make sense, Emma protested. I'm just a regular person. My grandmother hits way harder than I do, and she's like 70. The silence that followed the statement was broken only by the hum of medical equipment and Jitaro's containment sphere recalculating probabilities at speeds that would shame a quantum computer. Kailtas looked at Emma with something approaching religious terror. Your grandmother hits harder than you. Oh yeah, Abuela doesn't mess around. She grew up on a ranch, spent her whole life doing manual labor. Makes me look weak. Emma paused, then added helpfully, She's coming to visit next month if you want to meet her. Fair warning, though, she'll probably try to feed everyone. She thinks I'm too skinny. Vexia, conscious again but wisely remaining still while her bones were being reconstructed at the molecular level, made a decision that would have seemed impossible an hour ago. She looked at Kailthas and, with the absolute certainty of someone who had just had their entire worldview shattered and reconstructed, said, We need to make her an instructor. Emma blinked. What? No. Did you hit your head too? I clean toilets. I'm not qualified to teach space warriors how to fight. You just rewrote 5,000 years of combat theory by blocking a punch, Vexia countered, her voice hoarse. You're the most qualified being in this facility, possibly in the galaxy, to teach warriors about physical confrontation. You simply don't realize it because to you, this is normal. Commander, Jitaro interjected, I've been running projections. If the human were to strike at what she considers full force, without any unconscious limitation, the resulting energy release would be measurable on galactic scales. We're not talking about a weapon. We're talking about a fundamental force of nature that happens to clean bathrooms. Emma raised her hand like a student in class. Quick question, is everyone here insane, or is it just me? Because from where I'm sitting, you're all treating me like I'm some kind of superweapon when this morning I had to use a step stool to change a light bulb. Kelthas, to his credit, had commanded fleets through scenarios that would break most minds. He adapted. Ms. Martinez, I'm going to ask you to do something for me. It's very important. Can you lift that combat mech? He pointed to a training unit sitting against the wall, a 15-ton monster designed to require 6 operators and only used for advanced vehicular combat instruction. The robot thing? Sure, I guess. Emma walked over to it, grabbed it by what looked like a convenient handle, and hoisted it up with the casual ease of someone picking up a grocery bag. Like this? It's pretty light, actually. Good design. The combat mech was rated to withstand antimatter explosions. Emma was holding it one-handed while checking her watch with the other. "Oh man, I really am late for my shift. Do you still need me for anything, or can I go? The bathrooms in Section 12 are probably a disaster by now." Vexia, fully healed now thanks to accelerated medical technology, stood up. Her arm ached with phantom pains that her mind supplied to remind her of her hubris. She walked over to Emma, stopped at a respectful distance, and did something she had not done in 500 years. She bowed, a full supplicant's bow that exposed her neck in a gesture of absolute respect. "Emma Martinez, human, sanitation specialist. I was wrong. You are special. More than that, you represent something we never imagined possible. Will you, in whatever time you can spare from your duties, teach us? Not how to fight like humans. We could never do that, but how to fight while understanding that our definitions of possible are incomplete." Emma set down the combat mech carefully. I guess, if it doesn't interfere with my actual job. But seriously, I'm not special. That's kind of the point, isn't it? Back home, everyone's like this. We're just people. We break things sometimes, and we have to be careful, but that's just life. The words hung in the air like a prophecy. Kael'thas exchanged glances with Jotaro, with Zara, with Vexia. The implications were staggering. If Emma was baseline human capability, if her grandmother hit harder, if everyone from her world possessed this casual relationship with physics, we need to completely revise our threat assessment protocols, Kael'thas said quietly, and our recruitment strategies, and possibly our understanding of material science, physics, and biological capability. Also, maybe your simulators, Emma added. They seem kind of fragile. I bet I could help. I'm pretty good with fixing stuff. Last week I got the commercial washer in Section 8 working again with just some duct tape and optimism. Vexia felt something she hadn't experienced in centuries, genuine excitement about teaching. "When can you start?" Emma pulled out her schedule, an actual paper notebook, because electronic devices kept having unfortunate accidents around her. "Well, I've got bathrooms until 1600, but I guess Thursday afternoons are usually light. Would that work?" And so it was arranged. The Galactic Federation's most elite combat training facility, home to warriors who could crack moons and battle in the void of space, would now receive instruction every Thursday afternoon from a human janitor who considered herself entirely unremarkable. Vexia spent the rest of the day redesigning the entire combat curriculum around a central thesis that she should have learned from that very first "You're not special" speech she'd given. Special wasn't about being unique. Special was about being effective. And humanity, in their casual, apologetic, milk-drinking way, had mastered effectiveness on a level that made the rest of the galaxy look like they were playing at warfare. Emma left the training facility after getting precise directions to Section 15, scribbled on actual paper because the electronic displays kept flickering when she looked at them. She was humming something called "Don't Stop Believin'," and thinking about whether she had enough cleaning solution to tackle the executive bathrooms, completely unaware that she'd just become the most important instructor in galactic military history. Behind her, Vexia watched her go and remembered her own words from earlier. "You are not special." She'd been right, just not in the way she'd thought. Emma wasn't special. Emma was normal. It was the rest of the galaxy that was operating on hard mode, and they'd just gotten their first glimpse of what the baseline difficulty looked like. Thursday couldn't come fast enough,